So welcome once again, everyone, to the Clear Admit Inside the MBA Admissions Process webinar series. We're going to do some quick intros and get started. My name's Graham. I'm the co-founder of Clear Admit, and I'm going to moderate today's session. Let's do some intros for our panelists, though. I'm super excited. We have a great group of schools today, so we'll just go alphabetically here. First up is Amy Mitson. She's the Director of Admissions, Recruitment, and Marketing at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. Hi, Amy.
Graham and everyone, great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Next up, we're also going to hear today from Morgan Griffin. She's an Associate Director for Admissions at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. Hey, Morgan.
Hi, Graham. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to chatting with everyone.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We're also going to hear today from Megan Friedman. She's the Director for MBA Operations and Admissions over at Georgia Tech Scheller in Atlanta. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you, Graham. And yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. Next up, we've got Jake Kohler. He's the Director of Evaluation and Selection at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we're also going to hear from Christian West. He's the Senior Director of Global Recruitment at the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. Welcome, Christian.
Graham, good to see you again. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we have some sort of couple of roundtable questions that I wanted to get everyone's take on, and that's going to kind of kick things off. But I did want to mention that each of our schools, our panelists today, have agreed to kind of stick around at the end of the main session, and we're going to set up some breakout rooms here in Zoom. And so you'll be able to ask questions of our panelists by jumping into their Zoom breakouts when we get to the end of the main session today. So we'll probably run about an hour, and then the breakouts will open, and schools will stick around for at least 20 minutes or so to talk with you, maybe a bit more than that. So if you could just hold your questions until we get to the end of the main session, because you can ask those questions later when you're in a one-on-one or in those Zoom breakouts. So let's kick things off, though. Amy, I want to ask you this question. It's kind of an age-old question, and you and I have been working in the space for a really long time, and I feel like I hear this. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time someone asked this question, but I'd love to hear your take on this. Like, is there any difference between applying in round one or round two at Tuck? And I mean, obviously, for those of you who have like an early action deadline, you could maybe substitute that, or I mean, just is there a difference depending on when you apply? And then the other piece here is I'd also love to just hear a bit more about interviews. Like, how does your school conduct interviews? Who does them? How do they get scheduled? And does the interviewer like read the application, or is it more of a resume-based affair? So if you could talk about all that. And I know in your case, Amy, one of your early rounds kind of guarantees an interview. So it's kind of the two are linked in some ways. But let's hear from you on this.
A bit of a thank you combination to start. So the differences between round one and round two. So if you group round one and round two together at Tuck and compare it to round three, the difference with rounds one and round two versus round three is that if you apply at an accelerated timeline, you can guarantee yourself an interview versus waiting for the committee to invite you. So that's an option for round one and round two in our interview process. And I'll talk a bit more about the interview process in a second, but kind of the myths about like applying round one. I feel like when I look at that question, I'd like to collect all those nickels as well. But I think what I've heard from candidates over the years is just the rush to apply round one, in particular for international candidates, with the belief that I have to hurry up and do this round one or else I don't have a chance. And without a doubt, in the last many years, that is absolutely not true. I see candidates from all geographies spread across all rounds with equal opportunity to be admitted and to be awarded financial aid. So I do not see a big difference between round one and round two at Tuck with number of candidates who are applying in those rounds. Those are our biggest rounds. We see the majority of applicants there. Round three is smaller. And then round one and round two, the geographic mix, there is so much diversity there. You're not going to be at a disadvantage if round two is the right round for you. With the question regarding interviews, I highlighted, rounds one and round two allow you to submit all of your application materials early to guarantee yourself an interview. We are very generous with interview invitations, so definitely don't rush the application. I guess applicants would want a nickel for every time they heard that. Definitely don't rush the application. The majority of our interviews are done virtually, and that can also be at your choosing. You can choose to come to campus to interview, or you can do that interview virtually. And I've seen largely that people will do their interviews virtually and then wait to come and visit Tuck after or at a different time. The interviewer is a second-year student that is hired and trained by the committee. They do not see your application. They only have your resume. There's no matching that we try to do between you, the candidate, and your interviewer. That is a random selection based on student timing and scheduling. But you will, the committee will contact you. You'll be able to reach out to your interviewer, schedule that interview, whether you want it in person or virtual, and go from there.
All right, terrific. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. The thing that comes to my mind is, I think it's really helpful for candidates to have this understanding of like, who are you going to sit down with, whether it's virtual or in person, but what do they know about you? And so, I just think that, and that's why kind of we ask this to make sure that everyone knows what they're kind of getting into. Morgan, can you walk us through your thoughts? I mean, how does Fuqua do this? Any kind of difference between round one and round two, and then what's your interview sort of situation?
Yeah, so we do offer an early action decision round. It actually just passed for this year, but for those that are maybe looking at applying in the next cycle, usually early September, we have an early action round. That is a binding decision round. So if admitted, you're agreeing to come to Fuqua. Really what this does is we start allowing, by applying earlier, you get the advantage of an earlier decision, so you can relax a little bit before starting your MBA program, and you start getting access to career resources and kind of some of that early prep for an MBA program versus waiting a little bit later. Between round 1 and 2, we are part of the consortium, so we just kind of do align with that timeline for their application deadlines, but we offer these as just an option for people to apply. We understand that it takes a lot of time to put together an MBA application. Maybe you're trying to retake your test scores or get those test scores up. Maybe you're getting ready, finishing up things at work, and early action round 1 is just really a time crunch. So we do give people that flexibility in those different rounds to apply in. So we still award seats in all rounds. We still award scholarships in all rounds, merit-based scholarships in all rounds. But really, we want you to apply when you feel like your application is the strongest. So I often tell people, if you're coming up on a round deadline and you're just trying to get that essay written because you think that's when we want that done, I'd rather you take an extra couple weeks or months and apply in the next round and really have a polished essay. So really, it's apply when you feel like your application is the strongest. Early action is great for people that have been in the pipeline for a long time. No Duke is the school for them, and they want to apply then. As far as interviews go, last year we did change our interview policy, and so we have now moved to rolling admissions interview decisions. So what will happen is once you submit your application, somebody will read your application. We meet periodically as a committee to talk about the applications we've read. There's no rhyme or reason why we read one application before another. It is whoever pulls it out of the system and starts reading it. We'll then release those decisions. So the date that you see on our website is the final decision release date that you would hear something within the round that you applied in. So just keep that in mind. If you're seeing on any chat boards that somebody got an interview decision from us and you didn't, don't panic. We just maybe haven't read your application yet. So that's the way we kind of changed our interviews. And then as far as how the interviews are conducted, we offer on-campus interviews a lot like Tuck. That's typically with our second-year student. If you get a staff member, it's just because someone was sick and we needed somebody to fill that time slot. We wanted to make sure that if you came to campus, you still got to do your interview. But it's a 45-minute behavioral interview, just wanting to learn a little bit more about you, why you're wanting to pursue an MBA program. The only component of your application that your interviewer will have is your one-page resume. They won't have seen your test scores, read your essays, or anything like that. For those who are unable to come to campus to do interviews, we do offer virtual interviews as well, so that's usually conducted either with a second-year student virtually or with one of our wonderful alumni that are located around the world. And those interviews are conducted the same. There's no preference on how you do your interview. We understand it costs a lot to fly now, so if virtual works best for you, that works well for us. And then what happens is when someone goes back to read your application, that way then they'll have the interview right up there as well. So that is how our interview process works now.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm really glad you talked about the timing too, because as our guests today will probably figure out as we go along here, every school does things a little bit differently. So in the case of Fuqua, it sounds like the interview invitations trickle out on a kind of rolling basis. There are other programs where they're all issued in one fell swoop. It's really important to know that so that you don't panic when you see on a board, that someone's reported an interview. But yeah, thanks a lot for shedding light on that. Let's turn now to Megan at Georgia Tech. Tell us a little bit about your process. Is any difference between round one or round two? And then again, the interview process. And I did just want to add that I see a number of questions coming in. Some of these are really great questions. I encourage you to hold those questions and ask them in the breakouts because some of these questions may vary the responses school to school anyway. But Megan, let's hear from you about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, sure. And very similar to Amy and Morgan, rounds one and rounds two are similar, right? Round three is where we start to see a little differentiation. I do tend to think of round one as having a little less time on your application, but more time to make that decision just based on peer schools' deadlines and when you need to get a deposit in, having more time to potentially visit, that kind of thing. Whereas round two, you typically have more time on your application and a little bit of a shorter time period to make that decision, right? If you're admitted to multiple schools. So I do try and differentiate that for candidates, but I definitely echo what both of my colleagues were saying as making sure that your application is in the best place. We also at Georgia Tech prioritize funding in rounds one and rounds two. There's not really a difference, truly. And then we do have a good number of international applicants who typically ask me questions about, is round two too late? And as I'm sure those of you who are international are aware, visa policies are changing rapidly. However, Georgia Tech has a centralized admissions arm for graduate education, and they don't even allow us to start requesting visas until mid-March. So for us, round two is fine. You wouldn't be able to get ahead of it in round one. It's just maybe a little bit more time to prepare for, moving or building a community or getting those career insights like Morgan was sharing. And then as far as admissions interviews, I'd love to talk about them a little bit more. So we're one of those schools who send out our invites mostly on one day. And we are, invite only. So we go ahead and publish the interview dates on our website so that you can plan in case you are invited to an interview. But we don't publish when we're releasing those because it just depends on the admission committee and the readers and the pace at which we can get through all of the applications. So we definitely try and give people notice if they do need to travel into Atlanta, but we also offer in-person and virtual interviews. Ours are with staff, either from the admissions team, the student services team, or the career services team. And we've got a really collaborative environment here. Members of those teams also sit on our admission committee. And when there's availability, we also try to have a second-year MBA student in on those interviews to offer that student experience and perspective. So happy to dive more into that. We also only have the resume in front of us. So when you're going into a Georgia Tech admissions interview, it's just based on the resume and it's one piece of the, overall evaluation.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Then I'm glad that that we happen to have a school that does it all at once. And it sounds interesting that you publish the dates that the interviews are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That way, at least candidates can prepare accordingly, even though they don't know exactly when they're going to be told whether they've got the interview or not.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it. All right. Jake, I'm sure you're really excited to talk about interviews at Wharton because they're, kind of which one of these doesn't, fit with the others because you guys have a different process. But start by telling us a little bit about round one and round two at Wharton and whether there's any kind of difference.
Yeah, appreciate that. So like a lot of the peers, I'll kind of give like macro number pieces to it. Our number of applications in round one and round two are pretty similar. The number of admits we give in round one and two, pretty similar. Amount of enrollments, pretty similar. Fellowships, very similar. So just another way of saying what a lot of my colleagues have said, round one, round two, zero difference. I saw in the chat, I think it's come up. For those who are really worried about like the visa thing, what Megan said a moment ago is really useful too, but I'll just kind of contextualize. So like last year would have been a year where like we would have expected like a lot of issue for people who applied in round two to get in, even with 3 weeks of like total halt of visa appointments, we almost nobody was impacted ultimately. So round one, round two, you're gonna have time. So want to give the confidence on that vote. Graham, since we're going to talk about interviews a little bit later, do you want me to just kind of like, maybe I'll just do a really quick high level saying the dates that you would get your interview decision from us are already posted. So round one, those who applied in round one, October 22nd is the day that we will release all decisions, whether you're going to get an interview or not have an opportunity for admission this year. For round two, which is a January 6th application deadline, we'll release our interview decisions on February 20th. And the only note I'll have on that is in the past couple years, we found that the interview, and we'll talk about the differences a little bit later in the session, but it's been incredibly predictive of success at Wharton. So we've actually started increasing the amount of interviews we're doing. So now, a couple of years ago, it was about 30% of applicants got an interview. Even with the increase in applications the past few years, we're now interviewing close to 40%. Of the applicant pool. So we're really trying to interview more people just because it's been such a profoundly important part of our understanding of people's success. So more opportunity, which is great.
So you guys are busy.
It's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Excellent. All right. So we'll talk a little bit more about your interview process later, as you point out, because that's one of the questions that I have for you in the agenda. Christian, let's hear about Darden. And I believe, you also have an early kind of deadline that just passed, right? I believe so. But yeah, take us through any differences in these rounds and how does interviewing work?
Yes. So specifically for between round one and round two, we've done our due diligence on this. And our analysis shows that if you submit the same exact application in round one as you do in round two, that is very likely you will receive the same outcome when it comes to admissions. That's dependent on our application volume being similar year over year. But I think that gives applicants good confidence that they should really apply in the round where they could submit their best application. Here at Darden, we receive the majority of our applications in round two. So if you're applying round two, you are average. If you're applying round one, you are just a little bit early. So please apply when you feel like you're able to put your best foot forward. Graham, you're right. We like Tuck and Fuqua, we do have a early action round. That deadline there was September 4th. And it's unique. It's the only round where applicants can schedule an open interview. For us, round one, round two, and round three, all interviews are extended by invitation. And we do that on a rolling basis. And I think applicants should know that because we pre-review all of the applications to make that interview invitation, it can go out pretty late in our round, sometimes even as late as 2 weeks before decision release. So I echo my colleagues in that it is truly rolling. It's random in the draw of when that invitation is extended. We give you the opportunity to interview in a couple of different ways. Most of our applicants will interview virtually via Zoom. We do allow you to come to Charlottesville and interview in person if you want to make your interview as a part of a visit. And then we also, our staff will travel to major cities in the US and conduct interviews in person as well. When you receive your interview invitation, you will be given all of those options if they are applicable to you. So you can choose the one that you think is the best fit for you. And then two other things, your interview will be conducted by a member of the admissions committee or a second year student who is specifically trained to conduct the interview. I was just presenting to that group last week about mitigating bias in our interview process. And that is also connected to a unique way that we conduct our interviews. All of our interviews at Darden are anonymous. So whoever you are interviewing with, the only information that they will go into the interview with is your name. We do think that allows the interview to have a very unique contribution to our evaluation process, where it truly is an exercise in your communication skills, your ability to build a relationship with your interviewer. Your interview evaluation will not be biased by the other components of your application.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that we hear about, that that it's not a resume-based interview, it's really a completely blind interview. All right, so we've got a lot of details on how things work, and it's great that everyone's been very consistent. It sounds like apply when you're ready and you can put your best foot forward and when it comes to round one or round two, which is great to hear. Let's move on. What we're going to do now is give each school a chance to talk about something in their application process that's that they want to call attention to, or that's maybe a little bit different from their peers, a quirk, or just something about their process that they want everyone to know about. So we're going to start with Amy at Tuck. Yeah, Amy, where do you want to take us here? What do you want to talk about when it comes to Tuck's application?
Sure. So, a unique piece of the application process, you of course have the essays, so the 3 required essays. And essay 1, as many candidates are probably aware, will ask you, why Tuck, why MBA? And many times candidates also want to put their goals in that essay. The Tuck application also has 2 short answer questions where we specifically ask you in 75 words or less to put your short-term and long-term goals in the short answer section, which will allow you to free up some real estate for other things that you want to share. Because sometimes you say there aren't enough words in that essay 1 for all the things that you want to say. So you have the freedom to state your goals in the short answer questions. That is in the application specifics piece of the Tuck application before you get into the essay section. And then that frees up a little bit of real estate for you as you, I would say, specifically go through essay 1. Tuck is also a consortium member school, so for U.S. citizens and permanent residents who are applying through the consortium, that will not be there. That short answer question, those 2 short answer questions calling out your goals, because the required core consortium essay asks for your goals. So if you're applying through consortium, that's where you will put your goals. And then you will proceed through the same Tuck 3 essay questions that everyone is required to answer. The reason why the goals are separated out like that is for convenience to our process, which is after you are admitted to the program, we immediately are getting to work to match you with a current student and an alum and share those stated goals with them, just to have a point of connection and starting a conversation for, an alum or a current student who's going to reach out to you and say, congratulations, you've been admitted to Tuck. Those stated goals can, of course, always change. We almost expect that. But as you apply, sharing, what you believe at this moment as you're going through the application process for what those stated goals are. And so that is something that you may find a little bit different and wonder, why are the goals called out there in the short answer questions or required to be answered in that first consortium essay? It does give you a little bit more space to talk about why Tuck in your essay 1, and to talk about why now and this timing, and of all the things you could be doing, why you're pursuing the MBA at Tuck. So that's just a little bit of a difference there, and something to call out. And so you'll see that pretty readily as you go through the application specifics. But that is something, just a highlight that you'll notice is a little bit different. And that's, I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Because I think that's one of the biggest, something that stands out when I'm talking with people about the application.
I love that you mentioned this just because I think the tendency among applicants is sometimes to go to a school's website, look at the essay questions, and start work on the essays before they actually go into the application itself and see some of these short answer questions. And so I think it's really important for all of the schools joining us today, every school has an application form that you fill out online.
Yes.
And some of those forms have these little side questions like, oh, tell us your career goals in 75 words or less, or I mean, there are a number of them. And so I'm really glad you're calling attention to that because you could write the essay and not know about that if you're leaving the application form for the end, for
Right.
example.
And I would suggest, like, dear applicants, you will find like not a quick win, but like you'll feel that quick accomplishment, like going through the application, because those are short
Yes.
answers. That's uploading the resume. Like, don't forget, it does take some time, but those are things you have at the ready and you can kind of get that done and then
Mhm.
clear your head for some space to write the essays.
Yeah, and one last thing I would say is, you don't want to be filling out the application form on the eve of that school's deadline. I would go out on a limb and suggest that traffic to the school's website might be peaking on the eve of the deadline. And so why not, get the application forms online done in advance and get a holistic view of what the school's asking. So Amy, one more question for you, and then we should move on to to talk with Morgan a bit about Fuqua. But one question about Tuck. So you guys are located in Hanover, New Hampshire.
Yes.
And I think some of the folks joining us today are people from all over the world. Can you just say a word or two? I mean, it's kind of a unique location, so I wanted you to just speak to that a bit because you're not in a big city, and yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind as you're looking at schools. It's a differentiator, not just the small class size at Tuck, which is about 300 students, but the location and the fact that everyone who comes to Tuck has to move here, right? And so that is a differentiator, and that is also something that brings the class together really closely at Tuck immediately. Also, no matter where you're from, the minute you cross the threshold at Tuck, everybody's all of a sudden on the same page, trying to build their new network, get to know this new kind of environment for themselves. But the uniqueness of the location is we are located outside the city. Most people are not from Hanover, so that new experience bonds the class together really closely. If you're thinking about enjoying the outdoors, everything is really close and accessible in that way. So you get your MBA and you also get a lot of fresh air. So it is different in that everyone is moving here, but I think that's also a point in common that people have that really helps the class come together really, really quickly.
All right, terrific. Thanks for shedding light on that. Let's turn to Morgan now at Fuqua. What do you want to share about the Fuqua application process that's a little bit different or that you think would be helpful to candidates?
Yeah, so I think the thing that really stands out in our application, because like all the other schools, we have test scores, your resume, and we have essays. But I think what really stands out for us is our 25 random things about yourself essay. And so this is truly a bulleted or numbered list, I should say, of 1 through 25 of 25 random facts about yourself. And what this kind of started, a lot of people say, like, well, what are you looking for? So I'll share some context of how it came about. So we had in our office, whenever you join a new company or organization, those first few days, even weeks, can feel a little awkward. You don't know anybody and you're trying to meet people and see who you have a connection with. And so what we decided to do within our admissions office was when someone new started our office, they would tell us 25 random things about themselves and then send it out to the staff. We have them do that their first week. And what was nice was you would send that out and then everyone was going to email you back and say, that's so cool. I have a similar interest, or I had a similar story, or I'm into this as well. And it helped to form connections. And I think in business school, kind of like what we heard is you kind of form these connections. You're in this together. You're on the same team. And so sometimes kind of breaking the ice and finding out who's your people that you're really going to lean on more so was really important. And it's really nice to find out about people. And so we were once, redoing our essays. And as we do every year, we relook at our application and we thought, what a great way for our staff to really get to know our applicants and form connections with them. So that is why we ask for that. And I have read in the 7 years I've been here, read these essays. They have made me laugh. They have made me cry. They have made me think. They have made me smile. There have been times where people have included links. I remember there was one, this was the first year I was reading applications. Someone had started an Instagram page for their dog. Usually I spend about 45 minutes to an hour on each application. I think I spent like 2 hours because I then went to the Instagram feed and started looking at all the dog photos because I'm a huge dog fan. And so it's a way that we get to know our applicants. And what's really fun is when we admit these students, usually when they come to our admitted student weekend, we know so much about them that they come up and they tell us their name. And lo and behold, we might have read their application and we're just like, oh my gosh, like I finally get to meet you. I had this similar experience and I've been thinking about this ever since I read your application. And so with this essay, a lot of times people wonder, well, what are you looking for? Like, what's the secret equation? How many things have to be work related? How many things have to be personal? And the thing is you never know who's reading your application and who's going to have a connection to something you write. And there's been so many times that maybe I've called and admitted to somebody and I reference one of their facts because I read their application and they say, gosh, that was the last fact I wrote. I didn't think that was going to be so impactful. And I'll say that was the most impactful random fact because we had a connection and I had a shared experience with you. And it's something that also continues throughout the program. You could be a second year student and you're still introducing yourself of, hi, I'm Morgan Griffin. Here's a random fact about me. Our alumni do it now that have gone through this essay. So it's really about forming connections and kind of your first step in kind of building those business school connections and relationships. And so there's no secret equation. We really want to get to understand you as a person, what you're passionate about, what makes you tick. Did you take a trip that just you loved? Was there something at work that maybe changed what you want to do in your career? And now that's why you're wanting to go to business school. I usually say if you've got a really cute dog or any animal, include a photo of that in your essay because most of us on the admissions committee love good animal photos or cute children or cute babies or anything like that. We love seeing those things, but really it's just all about understanding you. And I would say that this is the part of the application. Do spend time on it because this is the part where when people say, well, I feel like I come from, there's a large applicant pool, or I don't know if I stand out. This is where, we looked at your test scores, we looked at your academics, we looked at your resume. This is where your personality comes to life. This is the part of the application that I feel like really helps us when we're an admissions committee say, gosh, I'm really rooting for this applicant because of their essay. So this is the part of your application that adds personality that you don't always get to add in graduate school applications. So I always say spend a lot of time with this. When I wrote my random facts essay 7 years ago, and I've changed it ever so often as things have happened in my life, I gave it to my husband, I gave it to my mom, I gave it to close friends and said, does this sound like me or is there anything you would add? And there's things that got added that I was like, I didn't think that was that special about me or anyone would really care about that or people would look at me differently. But my people that were close to me in my inner circle said, no, that's what makes you so unique and special. And so you should share that. So take time. I've had people tell me that, on their commutes into work, they've kept a notepad and just as facts came to them or a notes tab on their phone, I should say, I keep a notepad with a pen in my purse, but you can keep your cell phone, but work on it. Don't sit down there the night before and say, I can crank out 25 random facts about yourself. It's much harder than you would think it is.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before in previous webinars we've done. I remember you said, yeah, just kind of keep a journal and get those facts down over a period of time and show them to friends and family, like you said. So great advice. Because we've been talking a little bit about the application forms as well, I want to just ask you one kind of follow on, and that is you have this 100-word short answer question in the application where you ask about career goals. And specifically, there's a line about an alternate path. So you ask for people to, share their career goals, but also a kind of alternate path. And I wondered, how different can that alternate path be from the primary goal? So like, if someone says they want to be an investment banker, is it weird if the alternate path is like, oh, I'm thinking about being a strategy consultant? Or would it make more sense if it was something, in the finance space? Or like, so what would you say to someone who's kind of grappling with that?
I would keep it kind of similar because what we're trying to understand throughout the entire application is what are you doing now? What have you done? And why do you want to get an MBA? And what are you wanting to do after with it? MBA is a big investment, not only in your time and money. And so we just want to make sure like you have thought through this before applying. And believe it or not, I have read somebody in one of those essays that said, I'm coming to business school to figure it out. It's a very expensive way to figure it out. So what we are kind of looking for with that is we do want to understand kind of what are you wanting to do post MBA? What have you thought of? And but things change as we've seen in the world, especially recently. Sometimes there's layoffs in certain sectors, things change. So just what is your backup plan? And that could even be if you're wanting to be a project manager, maybe there's another kind of in between thing that you would want to do, or something else that you've explored, or maybe it's just returning to what maybe you're coming to business school, you're hoping to maybe do a career change, but maybe you kind of, if things don't work out, if you get here and you realize maybe that's not the role for me or what I want to do, or things have changed, you're going to go back to maybe the similar industry where you're doing just a different role. So we're not, and the thing too is I think a lot of people worry with this question that whatever you write, let's say you want to be a product manager for Amazon, and you get here and you take one of our classes in energy, and you're like, gosh, I want to go to energy and sustainability now, but I told admissions in my application I was going to go into this. You can change your mind. What we're really just trying to understand is what have you thought of that has made you say, I need an MBA in order to do this? And just have it be realistic. I think shoot for the stars, yes, but just have it be realistic and thoughtful as we try to put together the story in your application of why are you wanting to get an MBA and why are you wanting to come to Fuqua.
All right, terrific. Megan, let's turn to you at Georgia Tech. Scheller, what's something about your application process you want candidates to know a bit more about?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about our 10 fun facts essay. No, but it's very similar to Duke's 25 fun facts. So I will focus on something else, but I do just want to say from our perspective with the 10 fun facts, it's not evaluative in a sense, and it really is just to make sure that you are not, as we say, like a business robot, right? Like you're a person with interests, and we know that that's true, but sometimes it's hard to get that across in an application, as Morgan was sharing. And so it does just give people that chance to share some more information about what makes them them. So again, I won't dwell on that, but I think part of the reason why we incorporated that is because we are a small community. So when Amy was sharing, they're a class of 300 at Tuck. Our cohorts for the full-time MBA are around 70 to 80 per year who enter. So, total of about 160 at any given time. And then of course we have an evening MBA population, executive MBA population, and a great network. But I say all of this because it is a tight-knit community. And when we talk about, what MBA program is right for you, those are all things to keep in mind. And so we really wanted to make sure in the application to have a place to kind of gauge, is this person going to be a good community member? Are they going to be a good teammate? And so I'll transition a little bit into our interviews, which I also think the people that we have involved are unique for that same reason. So I mentioned we've got admissions staff, we have student services staff, and we have career services staff who conduct our interviews primarily. And then we try our absolute darndest to have a second year MBA student in on those as well. Now, that's not going to affect anything, again, from an admissions standpoint, if the availability doesn't work out. They're in class, they're, doing their graduate research assistantships, those kinds of things. But it is great when any combination of those people can be together, because I think it gives applicants a chance to see firsthand, like, I know the student that I'm interviewing with. I heard about their interview or their internship. I know what their job search looks like. I know their favorite class. Like, we truly are a community here at Scheller. So it gives you that opportunity. And it also gives us a chance to answer questions from that perspective. So I myself am an evening MBA student at Scheller. I started at Scheller 3 years ago and loved it so much that I decided, to fully buy into the MBA here. So I personally do have some firsthand experience in the coursework and with the faculty and with our career center, but that's not true of every staff member that does our interviews, right? And so again, having that student in on the interview just gives people the opportunity to ask from a slightly more honest place, like, what are classes like? How do you manage your time? And so I love having that combination. And then I'll also speak, because with the smaller class size, people wonder like about the network. And the reason that we love having our career staff in on these interviews is because, you know, we are typically in the top 5 MBA career services in the country. And a lot of that has to do with being able to spread our resources with the smaller class size, and also the strength of that network. So the career interviewers are a really great sounding board, and they have great insight for you to ask those questions to in an interview as well. So it doesn't matter which staff member you get, you know, we're all trained the same way. We're all very engaged in the Scheller community. But I think it's just interesting, you know, when you get your interview invitation and you see the name on the invite, and you can look into like, okay, so who is this person and what perspective are they going to be able to give me on Scheller? So I really love that process and hope that it's helpful for applicants as well.
Got it. Yeah, it does seem quite unique. One very quick follow-up, because I want to be trying to be mindful of the time here, is, you know, you do have this 10 fun facts essay, which is similar to what Fuqua does with their 25 random facts. But I wondered, just like basic guidance, like, you know, it's called fun facts. So I presume that means, you know, it doesn't need to be professional. I mean, you were saying earlier, it's to sort of test to see, like, are you just like a all business all the time, or do you have kind of outside activities and interests or things that are just quirky or whatever? So I presume that that's fair game, that this should be not where you're trying to kind of list like resume, you know, bullet points, but more something, yeah, just a little bit more interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like we have plenty of other areas in the application for highlighting your professional experience, or even, professional experience. So the fun fact should be about you as a person outside.
All right. Terrific. Cool. All right. Let's move on. Jake at Wharton. You know the drill, Jake. We want to hear something unique about your application process that you want to share. Yeah. So let's hear it.
I like following directions, Graham, but maybe I will we'll hold the unique for the TBD piece, because that is going to be truly unique. And
Okay.
is it all right if I highlight what we've done to evolve the first essay prompt, because that is the biggest change we've had in a number of years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So for those who may be familiar with our app, and for years we had asked a question like, how will the Wharton MBA help you achieve your goals? Pretty standard, pretty common among the group. This year, that essay has been converted into 2 short answers. The first being 50 words telling us what is your immediate short-term goal after an MBA. The second one being share what your goal, what your goals 3 to 5 years out of your MBA and how that supports your longer term goals. That's about 150 words. So we've really shaved out the essay part of the career part. And I want to like give some insight, like, this is not a trick. It's actually intended to make the process of applying easier and more straightforward to you all. And then in the background, the reason why I talked about, with our interview process, it's really predictive of success. The same we've done for every part of our application. We've been assessing how predictive is this of your actual achievement in the classroom and in your career at Wharton and after. And we actually found that essay that we cared so much about for a long time, for us, I'm not talking about an scope, but for us, we found it was not actually predicting people's ability to achieve. So instead of trying to have you coordinate and figure it all out with how does that match Wharton, why Wharton, we just assume you want to apply to Wharton because you applied to Wharton, and you don't need to tell us. You don't need to convince us of that. Focus on your goals. Being able to share your goals is really predictive for future success. Literature tells us that. So we're just giving this a whirl. So I wanted to like level set that and try to let everybody who's thinking about applying to Wharton this year just to think like, okay, like, how can I make this process a little easier? Streamline. 50 words. What's your immediate goal? You don't need to reference Wharton. Medium, long-term goals, you don't need to reference Wharton. It's about you. And we just want to learn that more straight up from you.
Got it. Okay. And, it's interesting because you talked about how you're interviewing a greater percentage of the candidate pool as well. So I guess that gives you more touch point, with the applicants. And as you said, in a process that you're saying is more predictive of their success in the program. But let's talk about the interview because, we kind of skirted around it. at the
Yeah.
beginning of the session. So Wharton has something that you all call the team-based discussion. So it's not really an interview per se. Just take us through, like, what is this thing, and how can candidates prepare for it, or what could they, how can they sort of just know what they're getting into?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so our team-based discussion, you upon getting your invitation to interview, you would get information about what the specific prompt is. Let's call it like a mini case study. It's not actually a case study, it's a simulation exercise where you're in a team, or the way I sometimes refer to it when I facilitate the sessions, I'll call it a leaderless group exercise. We just want to see, how do you actually work as a member of a team, taking 6 unique perspectives, you and your 5 other compadres in that specific moment. How do each of you share individual ideas? And then how, over the course of about 25-minute period, do you go from individual ideas to a final team presentation? And it's honestly a lot of fun. It's different. So I know there's nervous energy, and it's a lot easier being on my side of the desk and say, this is a great idea. This is so much fun. But for you all, your prep only needs to be in so much as preparing 60 seconds of a pitch, your ideas about how you would respond to that prompt. And maybe like what you could think about is like, what are the different team environments you've been in, and what have been different strategies that you have seen work really well in helping groups move from ideation to presentation? And know that you will flex some of those skills. You can't possibly flex all of them in a 25-minute period when you have 5 other people working with you. But we basically put you in a simulation that reflects the learning team environment that we have. And we just like seeing you show that off and do that together. These are totally random in assignment. Again, leaderless group exercise. We're not looking for the best leader. We're not looking for whose idea stands out the best of everybody's. We're looking to see, how do you just facilitate the flow of ideas, and how do you support the other people in a group environment? And I think typically about like the 10-minute mark is when I see groups start going like, oh, like this is kind of easy. It starts flowing a little bit more. The first couple minutes is a little performative, and that's natural because you're all trying to achieve something. Only other note I'll make about this before I shut my mouth is all people in your group, because it's random assignment, can get admitted. You're not competing against one another. So it's really important to know, like, they are truly your teammates. You can all achieve together, and truly the groups that really try to support each other in the evolution and are willing to like not just agree with one another, but not try to like step foot or interfere with somebody else's progress. The groups that like really just try to gel together and figure it out together do really well. The people generally do a lot better as a group in that space too.
All right, so it's not Survivor style where people vote each other off the island or something at
Most
the
certainly
end.
not. Good
No,
point.
I'm just kidding. But it's funny. It does remind me a lot of, I have an MBA, and it reminds me a ton of the types of exercises that you do in business school all the time, because you're with classmates and you have to tackle a project or an assignment. So yeah, it's a really interesting process. Yeah, so let's move on. We want to hear from Christian at Darden, and then we have like a quick lightning round that we'll try to run through as well. But Christian, tell us, what's something unique about Darden's application process, or anything that you want to highlight for us?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. So here I want to talk about our test waiver process. I saw that came up quite a bit in the chat, and Darden's approach to this is a bit different than some of our peers who have a test waiver process as well. So a little bit of background on this. One of the key questions that the admission committee is trying to answer in our evaluation of your application is your academic preparation for the program. And we use different components of the application to do that. The primary consideration is your undergraduate coursework and performance. Maybe you've already done another graduate degree prior to the MBA. We know that that is the best predictor as to how you will perform academically in the MBA curriculum. But of course, many schools, including us, use the standardized test score to help supplement that. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when a lot of the test locations were closed, we tried to be innovative and develop some way that we could look at alternative evidence beyond the standardized test score to assess students' academic preparation. So we developed this test waiver process. And the way that it works at Darden is by pre-application. So you would submit your test waiver application prior to the application that you would submit for the purposes of admission. It's not embedded in the admission application at all, which makes it quite different than some of our peers. We encourage you to apply for the test waiver as early as possible. You can, if you're targeting, for example, rounds 1 or round 2, you could apply for the test waiver today, but you have to do that within at least 2 weeks ahead of the admissions deadline that you are targeting. That gives our team enough time to review your test waiver application and give you a response. A new innovation to this process this year is that we've done a pre-assessment. So before you even upload all of the materials that we require as a part of our test waiver application, we've incorporated a pre-assessment. The test waiver process operates off a pretty discrete rubric of selection criteria. So in that pre-assessment, towards the end, we'll tell you you are likely to be approved for a test waiver or you are not likely to be approved for a test waiver. And I think that gives folks a bit of a barometer as to whether or not they want to continue with the process. The elements of the test waiver application include transcripts from any coursework that you've completed, your resume so that we can assess elements of your professional preparation that align with academic preparation. We also have some questions around quantitatively related job responsibilities or coursework that you've completed, and any professional certifications like the equivalent of a CPA, CFA, PMP, because we know that those are great contributors as well. After you've submitted your application for the test waiver, a subset of the admissions committee reviews that, and then we give you a response of, yes, your testing has been waived. Please submit all of the other components of the admissions application, or no, your testing has not been waived. We would need a standardized test score from you as a required component of your application. And I think that's a good indicator to those applicants that the standardized test score is going to play a significant role in us assessing their academic preparation. We've done our due diligence on the fidelity of the test waiver for those folks who were admitted with the test waiver versus those who submitted a standardized test score. There's really negligible difference in their academic performance in our curriculum. So it's really allowed us to maintain this as a part of our application process, making it more accessible to candidates. I could go on about the implications of having a test waiver in the admissions evaluation or scholarship process, but I will save that for the breakout room.
Thanks, Christian.
Did we
Looks like
lose?
Graham got booted out for a second, so I'll
Got it.
jump in here.
Yeah.
And this is Mike from Clear Admit. So I will just very quickly follow up with you on some of the things you were just mentioning. But you know, for your essays in the different sections where you have each essay question, right? You have different taglines and topics on top of the questions. Relationships matter here, community, careers with purpose. With you and your thoughts and the admissions team's thoughts, what's the purpose behind those headings and how can candidates really use those headings while they're framing their essay responses when they fill out their applications?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. I think my colleagues would agree with this, in that all of our essays that are part of our application process are a reflection of our evaluation criteria and priorities that we have as a school. So with those taglines, relationships matter here, careers with purpose, those directly align with our mission at Darden, and really the way that we try to structure the student experience. So I hope applicants are able to read between the lines there and see that this is a big value that we have within our student community. It's why we're asking you an essay question about it. This is a factor in our evaluation criteria. So the essay opportunity is really a way for you to align your candidacy with things that we care about. It's our way of signaling to candidates, this is really important to us. And as a Darden student, this should be important to you as well.
Yeah, sorry, I got bounced from the webinar briefly here, but Christian, Mike on our team took over and asked you the question that I was dying to ask. So I'm really glad that you highlighted that, because it's always struck me as interesting that you have these little kind of taglines before each of the essay, or kind of short questions. And so thanks for kind of shedding some light on why that is, and it makes perfect sense now. We have a couple of like lightning round questions, and what we'll do is we'll stay with you, Christian. We'll just go backwards through the alphabet so that you get to go first for once here. So I have 3 questions, and I'm just going to ask all of them to you. We'll just go through so that we can go quickly here. But what is the best place to eat on or near your campus?
Graham, at Darden, we have this brand new Forum Hotel, which is down at the bottom of the hill from the academic building. And in the Forum, they have the Good Sport, which is a sports pub. And I think it's a great location for our students. They get a discount just for being a Darden student. And I have to rep my hometown, DC. The chef at the restaurant got trained in Washington, DC. So they have a very unique thing that's specific to DC called mumbo sauce that I encourage anyone to try.
All right. Next lightning round question is one just general piece of advice, something brief, but yeah, and just general piece of advice for people joining today.
Start early. Please do not wait to the last minute to approach this process. The application is really is trying to encourage some critical thinking about your goals for the MBA. So we hope that you engage with us by starting early and doing that reflection process as you submit.
And then the final question we have here is, it's in honor of Duke's alternate path question. What would you be doing if you weren't working in higher ed?
I love this question, Graham. When I saw it, and the first thing that came to mind is, I think I would be a travel influencer. I'm even thinking about starting it as a side hustle, since I travel so much on behalf of the school. But yes, I would be doing that.
Excellent. All right. I'm glad you like this. I was worried when we put the admissions directors on the hot seat and asked them a question that they might be asking applicants. So, all right, let's go to you, Jake. We have these 3 questions. Best place to eat on or near campus?
I'll just go to where I saw literally an entire cohort come from before, like on the first day of preterm, and that was Kafar, which is one of the like coffee sandwich shops. It's Mike Solinov is one of the top like Philly restaurateurs. It's one of his spots. Fantastic pastries, really good coffee and teas, and so at least one quarter of the MBA class said so.
Excellent. How about a piece of just general advice to people who are joining us today?
I'll just encourage not to conflate recency. So I'll say, like, insofar as like the essays, the thing that you can touch now and have full control over now, with most important. You have control over now, but that does not mean it's more important than all the other pieces of the application. So like, just don't put any added weight on those. They're important, but not more important than everything else.
Okay. And finally, what would your alternate path be if you weren't in higher ed?
I would say like professional baseball player, but when I tried out for an independent team, I never got a call back. So maybe I'll go to like, I played college baseball. I think I would have like really loved being a college baseball coach.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's go to Megan. Tell us, great place to eat near Georgia Tech.
Yeah, we are right in the heart of Midtown Atlanta, so there are honestly too many to choose from, but there's a whole food hall like 100 feet away from the building, and they have great restaurants. One of them is Mediterranean, and it's called Aviva, so that would probably be my pick.
Okay. How about a piece of advice?
I would say talk to a current student or an alum at any program you're interested in, and go beyond just the admissions experts as well, and get some opinions and feedback from people who have been through the program. All
right. And your alternate path?
I taught before coming into higher ed, and I think I would go back to teaching, knowing what I know now about, everything I've learned. I think I'd be a better teacher now than I was.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Let's turn to Morgan. Morgan, best place to eat over by Fuqua or somewhere in the Durham area, maybe?
Yeah, we have a food hall on campus. It's called the Broadhead Center. And when I say it has every type of food, it has crepes, sushi, Italian food, Indian food, comfort food, Latin American food. So it's a great place if you are just indecisive and you just want to go and see what, tickles your fancy.
Okay. And how about a piece of admissions advice?
I think be yourself. Don't try and tell somebody else's story. Don't try and feel like you have to fit yourself into a box or be the ideal or candidate or what we want to see. I think be yourself and be authentic.
Okay. And then what would you be doing if you weren't in this role?
Well, before I came to higher ed, I was a political news anchor, so I'd probably return back to television and maybe just not do the political reporting and maybe stick to like some of the more fun things to report on.
Okay, got it. All right, let's go. Amy, thanks for being patient as we went backwards through the alphabet. What's a good place to eat near Dartmouth? Talk.
Sure. So on Main Street, there's Lou's Bakery, which is run actually by a member of the class of 2017 who did not want to leave Hanover. So he and his family stayed, and they run that diner, which is like the best place to eat so many things. But also the maple frosted donut is amazing. And the number of students and alumni that you run into at Lou's is it's also a great place to network and catch up with people.
All right, excellent. I want a donut next time I come to
Yes.
campus. All right, what about general application advice?
The panel offers all the great things, but I also say stay in the process. The process can be hard and challenging, and you're also trying to like live your life at the same time, but stay in the process. The significant opportunity for the impact that you can have from the MBA it just is so significant. So stay in it.
Okay, great advice. And then one last thing, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this?
Yeah, we just got through doing a lot of home repairs, so I would definitely learn a trade, like be a stonemason or a carpenter. Like I would go like be a plumber if I was a lot younger. I would absolutely learn a trade. Maybe it's not too late.
All right, excellent. So what we're going to do now is each of our schools is going to bounce into a breakout so that you can go and ask all the questions you might have about Fuqua, Tuck, Darden, Georgia Tech, or Wharton. I do want to sincerely thank Christian, Jake, Amy, Morgan, and Megan for making time to do the main session and also for sticking around and chatting with candidates individually. We'll send you all backstage now and get the breakouts set up. Everyone else stay with me. I want to just give you a couple of pieces of information before we send you into the breakouts. And I also want to just give our panelists a moment so that they can jump backstage and get a little bit of time to breathe before you all jump in. I did want to say a couple of things. We have two more of these events. So same time, same place, the next following 2 Wednesdays. And we have a whole great roster of schools joining us, including a number of other top schools. So please join us. You can just come every week for the next couple of weeks if you like. The other big thing is that there are a ton of resources at clearadmit.com that you should really make yourself, just avail yourself of. I mean, we have so many tools on the website. There's Livewire, which keeps kind of track of what's happening in the admissions process. Candidates like you can share your updates. We have a tool called ApplyWire where you can share your profile and get feedback on the schools you're thinking about and your career plan. And we also just more recently introduced a really amazing AI bot that we built. We made our own kind of LLM based on all the advice and insights that ClearAdmit has been gathering for over 20 years now. And that's free and it's on the site. It's called Ask ClearAdmit. And finally, as you can see on screen here, we have a whole kind of interview archive. So if you have an interview at a school, you can go into the archive and read reports from people who've interviewed at the school in question. We have thousands of reports from candidates who've been gracious enough to just share their experience over the years. So again, clearadmit.com is a really great spot to hang out if you need anything as you're navigating the admissions process. And as always, like all these resources are free on the site, so please make use of them. Without further ado, I do want to that we're going to open up the breakout rooms now, so you can go off and chat with the schools. You do need to be using the Zoom app. Like if you're just logged in via a browser, the breakout rooms I don't think work properly. So you should definitely make sure you're using the Zoom app on your computer or on your phone. But thanks so much for joining us today. And I hope to see everyone back next week as we gather another group of great MBA programs to chat with. The breakouts are now open. And again, enjoy your time with the school reps asking your questions. And I hope to see you all next week.